Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Game Tier Weekend where I explore some of the best games that you can play across the industry. And today, I want to focus on the Steam Deck. The PC gaming handheld scene really has just changed my world and how I approach games and where I buy them. I mean, I'm a fairly busy person, so I don't really have a lot of time to just sit down and play on my TV, but I do play a lot on my handhelds, and the Steam Deck has a very special place for my library. I mean, it's just a beautiful and comfortable device, and especially that OLED model, there's just some games that feel absolutely perfect to play on it. So today, we're going to talk about 10 different games that feels like they're meant to be played on the Steam Deck. And I have to say, every game on this list, with one exception, have all been released within the last 12 months. And I do have a reason for my one exception here, so do stay tuned for that. Now, I'm also going to say that this list is in no specific order, but yeah, let's just go and jump right into it, starting off with Digimon Story Time Stranger. I mean, Steam might not necessarily have a Pokemon game per se, but it does have its longtime rival, Digimon. And that's the thing, because for the first time in a very long time, you can actually argue that Digimon Story Time Stranger is better than some of the more recent Pokemon titles. It really is that good. Now, to be fair, it is subjective, but either which way, it has a great art style, the battles are a lot of fun, the evolution paths are strategic and quite frankly addicting, and it even has an interesting story. So if anything else, this might be the best Digimon game ever made, and it feels great on the Steam Deck with its pick up and play nature. So if you don't mind turning its settings down a bit, you can get 40 frames per second with the occasional hiccups here and there. Now, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 Plus 4 is another fantastic pick-up and play game for the Steam Deck. I mean, you can easily get 60 plus frames per second if you want, and this game is just a blast to play. These were actually some of my favorite games for the GameCube back when I was a kid, so to see them return in 2025 with remakes is almost kind of surreal, but if you haven't played these games, they are legendary for a reason. They're very arcade-like games, and I think that suits the handheld experience. It doesn't really matter where you are because you can quickly jump into a quick session and then return to your everyday life with that nifty sleep setting that the Steam Deck has. Now, maybe you want something a little bit more action-packed, though, and that's where I actually have two different games for you to check out, one being Shinobi Art of the Vengeance. Now, this is a beautiful game in motion with a very unique art style that pops off screen, especially on that OLED model. It looks incredible in action with its 60 frames per second, but hey, if you like these type of action 2D platformers, this really was the year of the ninja because Ninja Gaiden also returned as well. I mean, it's kind of crazy that both of them returned the exact same year, but yeah, Ragebound is the new 2D Ninja Gaiden game, and unlike Shinobi, it went a little bit more for a retro vibe, but I mean, you might actually prefer that. It does kind of feel more like the traditional classic formula with a few new twists, but either way, both of these games are incredible and are perfect games to pick up and play on the Steam Deck. Now, one genre that I really enjoy on the Steam Deck are 3D platformers. I mean, this has always been my comfort genre, probably because I grew up in the 90s when these were just all the rage. But one of my all-time favorites, of course, is Banjo-Kazooie. Come on, let's get that Banjo 3 out there. I don't know what's going on with that, but at the very least, we do have a spiritual successor. Some of the original creators did a Kickstarter years ago for a Banjo spiritual successor, being Yooka-Laylee. Now, when it eventually released, its reception did not meet expectations. But here we are years later, and Playtonic has yet to give up on it. They recently released a remake being Yooka-Replay-Lee, and this is a complete overhaul that makes the game feel better in almost every possible way. I mean, to be completely fair, I also enjoyed the original, but Yooka-Replay-Lee takes it to the next level, and they fixed a lot of the complaints that the original had. So if you are a Banjo-Kazooie fan, or if you just like collectathon platformers, I definitely recommend giving Yooka-Replay-Lee a shot. Now, another genre that goes back to my childhood are kart racers, and while the Switch 2 has Mario Kart World as its big system seller, well, the Steam Deck still has Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and the thing is that you could actually argue that it's the better game of the two. Now again, that's subjective, I'll leave that up to you, but without a doubt, Sega really knocked it out of the park this time. And here's the cool thing about owning it on Steam as opposed to another platform. See, unlike other consoles, online play is completely free. Yeah, no subscription required, and multiplayer is important for the kart racing genre. So yeah, you gotta love it, and for that reason alone, Steam Deck is a really good fit, but you can also easily push 60 frames per second as well. One of this year's biggest surprises, though, has been Dispatch, a new choose-your-own-adventure type of game from some of the original Telltale creators who worked on genre-defining experiences like The Walking Dead. However, Dispatch is a lot less bleak than that. It's instead a superhero workplace comedy style of game where you manage a dysfunctional team of misfit heroes and strategize who to send to emergencies around the city. It's a very humorous game, but I mean, these type of games are all about their stories, their characters, and player agency, and you're going to get all of that in Dispatch. Plus, it's got a beautiful art style that, again, I think really pops off screen. So if these are your type of games, then Dispatch is probably the best new game for the genre. Now, speaking of games that are best in their class, well, then we need to talk about Trails in the Sky First Chapter. It's definitely among the best recent JRPGs, and for really a very good reason. It's a remake of the all-time classic PSP title that kicked off the Legend of Heroes series all of those years ago. And that's the thing about this franchise. It's a very long-running series. I believe it has 10 plus entries by this point, and I mean, these are also very long games. So I mean, for new players, it can kind of be an intimidating series to get into, or at least until now. Trails in the Sky First Chapter is now the perfect place to jump in for new players, and really, what a brilliant way to get started. Personally, the first two games are some of my favorite JRPGs because the characters and story are phenomenal. It's about a young girl named Estelle and her mysterious adopted brother who seems to have a bit of a dark past. As they come of age, though, they set out on a grand adventure with all kinds of twists and turns, and I'll just simply leave it at that. What I'll say here, though, is that if you care about a good story and good characters, and if you just like the JRPG genre, then Trails in the Sky First Chapter is a must-play. Now, I will say that I think this game is a little bit more suited for 40 FPS, though. Oh, another game that returned this year was Final Fantasy Tactics: The Evilest Chronicles. And let me just tell you, it has stood the test of time, and quite frankly, it's gotten even better, thanks especially to its voice acting. I mean, Final Fantasy Tactics has always been listed as one of, if not the absolute best tactics RPG ever made, and that really hasn't changed. But it also has a really good story and great characters that, in my opinion, has been greatly enhanced thanks to the addition of voice acting. I think it really transcends its story and really brings it to life like never before. So whether you've played the original or if it's your first time, it is an absolute masterpiece that all JRPG and tactics fans should play. And speaking of games that feel absolutely perfect on the Steam Deck, we can't forget about Hades 2. Of course, the first game was already amazing as is, but somehow, Supergiant Games pulled it off yet again. This time you play as the sister of Zagreus, and the game introduces all kinds of new weapons, systems, and twists that makes each run feel fresh. It's fast-paced, it's stylish, and those short run-based sessions are ideal for a handheld like the Steam Deck. I mean, you just kind of pick it up, you do a couple of runs, and put it right back to sleep. And of course, it's a beautiful game that pops on the OLED model specifically. The art direction, the voice acting, the music, they're all top tier, as you'd expect from Supergiant Games. So, I mean, if you enjoy roguelike experiences, then definitely check out Hades 2. Now, the one exception that I made for this video, not being a brand new game, is the Metroid Prime trilogy using Prime Hacks. Now, to be completely clear here, make sure you own this game, which I do for the Wii U. But the reason that I'm including it is because the Steam Deck does what Nintendo don't. It is absolutely baffling to me that Nintendo did not release Metroid Prime 2 and Prime 3 ahead of the launch of Prime 4. I feel like it would have been the perfect way to catch people back up on a franchise that's been gone for 18 years. I mean, I kind of feel like fans would have appreciated a bit of a refresher, but thankfully, with the addition of Prime Hacks, Metroid Prime 2 and 3 runs wonderfully on the Steam Deck, and hey, you don't even have to worry about those terrible motion controls that was in the original Metroid Prime 3. Personally, I think Prime Hacks makes it feel much better and is now actually one of my favorite Metroid Prime experiences with its more traditional controls. I mean, really, the Steam Deck is kind of a handheld powerhouse for emulation. There's a lot of games that you could play on it, but I think Metroid Prime Trilogy deserves a special spot just given the circumstances. Now, one last game that feels like it's just made for the Steam Deck is Hollow Knight Silksong. I mean, it's kind of crazy that we can finally play this game now because fans had to wait for years and years for its launch, but I have to say, the wait was well worth it. You play as Hornet this time around, who's faster, more agile, and really she has a completely different combat system compared to the Knight from the first game. I'd say the movement alone feels incredible, and when you combine that with that OLED screen, the art style again just pops off. I mean, it really adds to its dark, grimacing atmosphere, and yeah, as you would expect, it runs at 60 frames per second, no problem. Honestly though, this might be one of the most satisfying games to play on the deck, both visually and gameplay-wise, as long as you're up for a challenge. It can be a very difficult game, but it is incredibly fun. There you go though, 10 games that you should absolutely play on the Steam Deck, and here's the thing, by the time I upload this video, there should be a big Steam sale, so you might be able to pick up some of these games for a discount. You gotta love that about Steam, but let me know. What are some games that you enjoy on the Steam Deck? Because, hey, I want to hear some of your recommendations as well. Anyways, though, that's gonna be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.